the $100,000 fee imposed by the Donald Trump administration on new H-1B visa petitions will not apply to applicants seeking a change of status or an extension of stay. That's the latest we're getting in on the change of rules that came in on the H-1B visa. Now issued by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services the guidelines clarified that exemptions to President Trump's September 19 proclamation, restriction on entry of certain non-immigrant workers, which will raise the fee for new H-1B visas to a steep $100,000. It also added that the proclamation also does not prevent any current H-1B visa holder from traveling in and out of the U.S. However, if the USCIS determines that a person is ineligible for a change of status or an amendment or an extension of stay, then the fee would apply. In fact, a beneficiary will not be considered to be subject to the payment if they subsequently depart the US and apply for a visa based on the approved petition and or seek to re-enter the US or a current H-1B visa. Now remember, this proclamation by the US President raised the fee for H-1B visas to a staggering $100,000 annually, and in a move that could adversely impact Indian professionals. Remember, Indians make up about 70% of H-1B visa beneficiaries. So this now coming in fact, on the change of rules in H-1B visas. Now, these guidelines were issued just days after the U.S. Chamber of Commerce filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump's administration and its decision to impose the fee, describing it as misguided and plainly unlawful action that could cripple American innovation and competitiveness. In fact, this very lawsuit filed October 16th in a district court in Columbia challenged that proclamation and said that it exceeds President's lawful authority. Now viewers, tens of thousands of highly skilled people in specialized fields boost the American economy each year after obtaining H-1B status. Now, my colleague Shweta Kothari is joining me on this with more details. Shweta, we are given to understand that the hike that was announced by the Donald Trump on H-1B visa will not apply now to applicants seeking a change of status or an extension of stay. Could you explain that to our viewers, in fact?
Right, Ishita, it's an important clarification. Remember, it comes on the heels of the fact that a proclamation made by US President Donald Trump sent jitters down the spine of many people who were hoping to make a living in the United States. Immediately after that proclamation was made on 21st of September this year, thousands of workers who were hoping to come back to India to perhaps attend to their family functions, visit their extended families, started asking for postponement of that flight because they were worried that if they leave the US, they may not be able to come back and they'll be subject to that 100,000 USD fee for H-1B visa. And a clarification came in that existing H-1B visa holders will not be subject to that fee. Now, a further clarification has come in this after US President's proclamation was challenged in the court that any person who has an H-1B visa and is a valid H-1B visa, wants an extension of it, wants to leave the country and leave United States and wants to come back later on, can do so without paying up that fee. Now, it's a big relief. It's a big relief not just to thousands of immigrant workers who are currently in the US. Remember, 71% of all H-1B visa holders in the US are Indians. Essentially, we make up a large chunk of their skilled workers. And all those people who are now sponsored, remember, by their companies to get that H-1B visa will get some sort of relief because they will continue to live and continue to work in the United States. It is an important clarification. It allows people to get an extension. It also allows people to leave United States without worrying if they'll have to pay that extra fee. This is coming, as I mentioned, on the heels of a court case. But it's also a relief to many companies, Ishita, for many companies who continue to sponsor H-1B visas. So all those visas which have already been sponsored as of 21st of September will still be valid. And one can ask for a change in status or an extension without paying that extra fee. Now, that 100,000 USD, for the benefit of our viewers, is about 88 lakh rupees per applicant per visa fee. It's a substantial number. It's also going to see cost of sending people to United States soaring in coming years. But therefore, right now, some sort of relief there for people who already have that H-1B visa.
Right, Shweta, it is a big relief for Indian workers who are in the US, and also it does put their concerns to rest. But I want to ask you, you mentioned that it comes on the heels of a legal case. If you could just explain, the court says that this was beyond the authority of the US president, right?
That's right. The courts have continued to maintain that such proclamation that change the immigrant status of skilled workers is beyond the scope of presidency. Now, obviously, Donald Trump and his legal team have challenged many of these court orders. They've challenged them in higher courts. And since these cases are ongoing, a clarification from US immigration is essentially important to uphold that proclamation so that it's not further challenged in the courts, but also, give some sense of respite to people who already have those H-1B visas, as I mentioned, and many of whom are Indian workers. So one who has an H-1B visa, if you're in the US, you have an H-1B visa, your company will not have to pay up that exorbitant 88 lakh rupees more if you're hoping to get an extension of your visa or if you're hoping to change the status of your visa. There's also important clarification that has come in that if your visa status is likely to expire, then you will be subject to that $100,000 once again. So this is only for those people who already have a valid visa which can be extended. An important clarification in the light of judicial challenges that Donald Trump is facing at the moment, and he's also hoping to firm up his defense in the court.
Right, Shweta, big relief for Indian workers and H-1B visa holders. Thank you for putting that story into perspective.